Welcome to the Deep Dive Library, your go-to podcast for real talks on entrepreneurship, finance, and personal growth. No fluff, just bold insights to help you grow, build, and lead. Let's dive into point 1. How do I set and achieve personal goals?
It's a big one, isn't it? Something almost everyone grapples with at some point.
Absolutely. And today, we're really digging into it. We want to unpack the best ways to set goals that you can actually, achieve, ones that are realistic.
Because so many people set these huge, vague goals or things that are just way too ambitious right out of the gate.
Exactly. And then the motivation fizzles out. So we'll explore how to stay motivated, how to remain consistent. That seems to be the missing piece for so many.
Consistency, yeah. And how habits fit into all this, turning those big goals into smaller, sustainable routines. People really want to know how to do that.
Definitely. We'll also cover tracking your progress. How do you actually measure success effectively? Because seeing results, that keeps you accountable, right? Keeps you focused.
And finally, the big question. Why do people fail? Why do we stumble? And crucially, how can you avoid those common pitfalls? It taps into that frustration, that fear of not reaching your potential.
It really does. So we've looked at insights from behavioral science, some great books on habits, studies on goal setting, the whole lot. The aim here is to give you practical knowledge you can actually use.
Let's do it. Where should we start? The foundation, I guess.
Yeah, let's start with the basics. Why even bother setting goals? It can feel like just another task sometimes, but the research, well, it's pretty clear.
It really is. Goals give you focus, don't they? Direction.
Totally. Researchers like Latham and Locke, and Shunk too, they point out that having a goal literally increases your effort, your persistence. It makes you try harder for longer.
And it pushes you to learn new things you might not otherwise bother with.
Right. Compared to just saying, do your best. It sounds nice, but it's so vague.
What does best even mean? It changes day to day. Explicit goals, challenging ones, they just work better, period.
Knowing exactly what you're aiming for, it focuses your energy like nothing else.
And there's something powerful about writing them down. You mentioned Brian Tracy.
Yeah, that Harvard study he talks about, it's famous, maybe infamous, but the point stands. The tiny percentage, like 3%, who had written goals
ended up earning significantly more down the line.
Exactly. Writing it down seems to make it concrete, real.
It takes it from a wish to more of a commitment, a plan. And for making those plans effective, the SMART framework comes up again and again.
Ah, yes, SMART goals.
Yeah.
It's a classic for a reason, I think. Should we quickly break that down?
Yeah, definitely worth a refresher. So S is for specific.
Specific, meaning?
Meaning you need to know exactly what you want, no fuzziness. Instead of, say, I want to get better grades.
I want to raise my biology grade by 5 points this term.
Precisely. Crystal clear. Then M is for measurable.
Measurable, so you need numbers. A way to track.
You got it. How will you know if you're making progress? Lose weight isn't measurable.
But lose 5 pounds by June 1st, weigh myself every Monday morning is.
Exactly. You've got the target, the deadline, the tracking method. It's concrete.
Okay, SM, what's A?
A is for attainable. Or some say realistic. Basically, is this goal within your reach right now?
Given your time, your resources, your current skills.
Right. Aiming to, score 50 points in your next basketball game might be a stretch.
Unless you're LeBron James, maybe.
Right. But maybe aiming for make 7 out of 10 free throws is attainable. It challenges you, but doesn't set you up for immediate failure.
Okay, that makes sense. You need that balance. What about R?
R is for relevant. Does this goal actually matter to you? Does it align with your bigger picture, your values?
That's crucial if it doesn't feel like your goal.
It's so much harder to stick with it. That connection to personal values, as BetterUp points out, is key for that deep intrinsic motivation and, honestly, happiness.
So it has to mean something. Got it. And finally, T.
T is time-bound. Give yourself a deadline, a realistic one.
Not just learn piano someday, but
learn to play the Star-Spangled Banner on piano by June 15th. That deadline creates urgency, a finish line.
Smart. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. A really solid framework.
It really covers the bases for setting a goal that you can actually work towards.
Okay, so we've set a good goal. It's written down, it's smart. But now comes the hard part for many. Actually doing it. Staying motivated day after day.
Motivation. the driving force. We can think about intrinsic versus extrinsic.
Doing it because you love the activity itself versus doing it for some external reward.
Yeah, like reading because you're fascinated versus reading just to pass the test. Though, interestingly, even extrinsic goals can feel very motivating if you personally value the outcome.
Like studying hard for a career you genuinely desire.
Exactly. And here's a cool feedback loop. Achieving goals, even small ones, actually boosts your motivation and your self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy.
Yeah.
That's your belief in your own ability to succeed.
Precisely. Hitting a target makes you feel capable, which makes you believe you can hit the next target. Getting feedback that you're making progress fuels that belief too.
So success breeds more success by building that inner confidence.
It really does. And then there's the identity piece, which is fascinating.
How does identity play into this?
Well, sometimes we resist a new goal or habit because deep down, it doesn't feel like us. It feels like something we should do, not something someone like me does.
Like cognitive dissonance?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
But the flip side is, if you can connect that goal to your identity, if you start thinking, I am a healthy person, instead of just, I should eat better.
It becomes less of a chore and more of an expression of who you are.
That's a really powerful shift. It taps into identity-based motivation.
Wow. Okay, so identity can be a huge lever. And acting on that motivation consistently, that leads us to habits, right?
Exactly. Habits, the bedrock of long-term achievement.
James Clear's compound interest of self-improvement. I love that phrase.
It's so true. Habits are behaviors that become automatic through sheer repetition. They literally rewire your brain.
And that 1% better everyday idea,
Yeah.
it seems so small.
Tiny. But over a year, it's huge.
Yeah.
That's the compounding. It's not about massive leaps. It's about those small, consistent steps.
So how does a habit actually form? What's the mechanism?
Clear breaks it down into a 4-stage loop. Simple but powerful. First, the cue.
The trigger.
Yeah, the trigger. Something that tells your brain, hey, start this routine. There's a reward coming. Could be a time, a place, an emotion, seeing something.
Okay, the cue prompts it. What's next?
The craving. This is the engine. It's the desire for the reward, the change in state. You don't crave brushing your teeth.
You crave the feeling of a clean mouth.
Exactly, that's the craving. Then comes the response.
The actual habit itself, doing the thing.
Right, brushing the teeth, going for the run, writing the paragraph. And finally,
The reward.
the reward. It satisfies the craving and it teaches your brain, hey, that loop, cue, craving, response, that was good, let's do it again.
Cue, craving, response, reward. Understanding that makes it feel less like magic and more like engineering.
You can consciously design for it. Claire's also suggests that habit scorecard exercise.
Right, just listing your daily behaviors. Good, bad, neutral.
It sounds almost too simple, but just becoming aware of what you actually do all day, that's often the biggest first step. You can't change what you don't acknowledge.
Shedding light on your autopilot. And this ties into another big idea from Atomic Habits. Environment over willpower.
Oh, this is huge. People we think of as disciplined, often they're just better at designing their environment.
So they don't need as much willpower because the temptation isn't there or the good choice is easier.
Exactly. They make good habits the path of least resistance. Trying to rely purely on self-control in a constantly tempting environment, it's exhausting. It's usually a losing battle.
So design your space, design your schedule. Don't just wish you were tougher. That's empowering.
Very. And it's also easier to build habits that align with who you naturally are, right? Your inclinations, your abilities.
Yeah, finding the right game to play, as Clear puts it, where your strengths give you an edge.
Your genes aren't your destiny, he says, but they kind of point towards your areas of opportunity. Lean into your nature.
Makes sense. Work with yourself, not against yourself. Okay, so we've got SMART goals, motivation fueled by identity and progress, and the habit loop working for us. How do we keep it all on track? How do we measure progress?
Tracking is vital. It keeps you honest, keeps you focused. We mentioned students tracking math scores on graphs.
Seeing that line go up, that's motivating in itself.
Definitely. And it's not just for school kids. Brian Tracy talks about the LA Lakers using a system, CBE, competitive basketball effort.
Wow. Tracking specific player actions year over year.
Yeah, and he argues it was a key part of their championship success. Systematic tracking provides invaluable data, even at the elite level.
So data matters, but it's not just the numbers, is it? There's reflection too.
Oh, absolutely critical.
Yep.
You have the data from tracking, but reflection is where you learn from it. What worked, what didn't, why.
Without that pause to reflect, you just keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Or making excuses.
Exactly. Top performers are often obsessive note takers, reviewers. They analyze their training, their performance, constantly looking for tiny improvements. They don't just do the work, They study the work.
Track the data, then reflect to find the insights. Got it. Okay, let's tackle the tough one. Why do people fail? Even with good intentions, smart goals, habit loops, things still go wrong. What are the big obstacles?
Well, there are the common ones everyone knows. Fear of failure, procrastination, lack of motivation kicks back in, perfectionism stops you starting, distractions. Social media is a big one these days.
The usual suspects. But what about deeper, maybe less obvious behavioral barriers?
Yeah, behavioral science points to a few key ones like status quo bias. We just prefer things to stay the same, even if change would be better. Overcoming that inertia takes real effort.
We like the familiar, even if it's not optimal.
Right. Then there's the sunk cost fallacy. You've put so much time or money or effort into something
That you just can't quit, even if it's clearly not working anymore.
Exactly. You keep throwing good money after bad, so to speak, just to justify the initial investment. It's irrational, but very human.
I think we can all recognize that feeling.
And the planning fallacy. We're consistently terrible at estimating how long things will take, especially our own tasks.
We're always too optimistic.
Usually, yeah. Especially for complex stuff. We don't break it down enough, or we just assume smooth sailing. Interestingly, we're often better at estimating for other people.
Huh. That's funny. Okay, so those are internal biases, but can the way we set goals itself sometimes lead to problems?
Yes. This is the goals gone wild idea. Goals are powerful, but if you're not careful, they can backfire. One big issue is narrow focus.
Tunnel vision.
Exactly. You get so fixated on hitting the goal metric that you ignore other really important things like safety or ethics or teamwork.
The Ford Pinto example comes to mind, hitting cost and time goals, but
ignoring critical design flaws.
Yeah.
Or Enron, focusing just on revenue, not actual profit. The goal blinded them.
that's a serious warning. What else?
You can end up ignoring non-goal areas. If your performance is judged only on X, why would you spend time on important task Y?
Right, you optimize for the metric, even if it harms the bigger picture.
There's also short-termism, focusing so hard on this quarter's numbers that you sacrifice long-term investments, like R&D.
Quick wins over sustainable growth.
And goals can become ceilings, not just targets. People hit their number and just stop.
Like those NYC cab drivers going home early on a busy rainy day because they made their target.
Classic example. They could have made much more, but the goal became a limit.
Fascinating. And frustrating.
And finally, setting goals that are just too challenging, way too hard. It can actually encourage bad behavior.
Like taking crazy risks or cutting ethical corners to try and hit an impossible target.
Precisely. Think of banks pushing risky loans to meet aggressive targets before a crash. Plus, ridiculously hard goals can actually hinder learning because you're just stressed and failing constantly.
Okay, so goals are a double-edged sword. Powerful, but potentially dangerous if misused. How do we avoid these pitfalls? How do we set goals that work for us, not against us?
A lot of it comes back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Use those SMART goals we talked about, explicit, rigorous. That helps fight vagueness.
Right. Be clear.
In complex situations, consider learning goals instead of just performance goals. Focus on mastering a skill or understanding a process, not just hitting an output number.
Get better at the how, not just the what.
Exactly. And be genuinely realistic about what's attainable for you right now. Avoid that comparison trap. Focus on process goals.
Meaning focus on the habits, the daily actions.
Yes. Focus on executing the behaviors consistently. The outcome will take care of itself if the process is right. It's less overwhelming, too.
Small steps, daily wins.
Absolutely. And anticipate obstacles. Think ahead. What might go wrong? How could I handle it? Just thinking about it makes roadblocks less scary when they pop up.
Prepare for bumps in the road.
Find an accountability partner. Tell someone, a friend, coach, family member, what you're doing. That check-in makes a huge difference in staying consistent.
That social element is powerful. What else helps when things get tough? Because they will get tough.
Persistence. Simple, but crucial. Brian Tracy really hammers this. You just have to refuse to quit when you hit obstacles. Develop that grit.
Keep going.
And cultivate courage, especially conquering the fear of failure or rejection. Knowledge and skills help build confidence, which reduces fear, but ultimately courage is acting despite the fear.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's the essence of it. Also, be flexible. Your initial plan might be wrong. Things change. Be willing to review, ask, is this working? Admit mistakes, and pivot. Don't cling to a failing strategy.
Adaptability.
Yes, and develop your problem-solving muscles. See obstacles not as stop signs, but as problems to be defined and solved systematically. And underpinning all of this,
What's that?
an action orientation. Successful people are biased towards action. They try things, they experiment, they do something every single day, even if it's small, moving towards their goal.
Don't just plan, do.
Yeah,
Consistently.
that daily movement is key.
Okay, this has been incredibly comprehensive. We've gone from setting goals to habits to failure modes and back. Any final key takeaways or insights from the sources that really stand out?
A couple of things. The ability to delay gratification comes up. Resisting that immediate reward for a bigger future one. It's fundamental for success and building good habits, cultivating patience.
Choosing the long game.
Exactly. And self-efficacy. We touched on it, but it's worth restating. Believing you can do it, believing you can handle setbacks. That belief itself is a powerful predictor of success.
It fuels persistence.
It really does. And that idea, alignment with strengths, finding work, finding goals, building habits that genuinely suit your natural talents and interests, it just makes everything feel less like a struggle and more like flow.
Play to your strengths. Or build a game around them.
Yes. And finally, maybe see yourself as that lifelong do-it-to-yourself project that Brian Tracy mentions. Commit to continuous learning, continuous skill development. Don't worry if you lack a skill now.
It's learnable.
Anything is learnable with dedication. Imperfect practice, done consistently, gets you there. You can build the tools you need.
That's a really hopeful note to end on. You're not fixed. You can grow into your goals.
Absolutely.
If you found value here but haven't subscribed yet, why wait? Every subscriber fuels this channel to keep delivering the real game-changing content you need. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. And now not miss out on the next episode that could change everything for you.
And as you think about all this for yourself, really mull over that idea. Genes don't lock you in, but they do highlight your opportunities. Where do your natural inclinations lie? What genuinely excites you? How can you shift your goals, your habits, to really play a game that favors your strengths? Or maybe even how can you consciously create that game? Thinking about that alignment, that might be the secret, not just to hitting your targets, but actually enjoying the journey.